Title of this sermon, I'm going to put a tag on the text. I'm going to put a tag on the text. And the title of the sermon today is Labor Pains. Labor Pains. Sister White writes, before he came to the earth, Jesus was the commander of the angel hosts, the brightest and most exalted of the sons of the morning herald. His glory at the creation, they veiled their faces before him as he sat up on his throne. They cast their crowns at his feet and sang triumphs as they beheld his greatness. Yet this glorious being loved the poor sinner and took upon him the form of a servant that he might suffer and die for us. So we know that God allowed himself to be lowered to a servant. But I want to go somewhere in this text that you don't actually see. Through exegetical dissection and biblical hermeneutics, we discover that the text has things that are not written in the text but naturally applied. And because of this absence of it not being written, sometimes natural application is either missed or deemed insignificant. So, for example, if I were to give you an example, Noah and the ark. Noah and his family were on the ark 40 days and 40 nights. The text does not read that he ate and slept while he was on the ark. However, because he was human, it is naturally applicable that they would have eaten and slept on the ark because it was 40 days and 40 nights. So as we look at the natural application of this text, we discover that there are some things that are not written but naturally applied and has great significance. See, Jesus was conceived spiritually but birthed naturally. And so when we look at the text, we talk about no room in the inn. We talk about the manger. We talk about the swaddling clothes. We talk about the wise men. We talk about the gifts. We talk about the star. We talk about the manger. We talk about everything else. But we never actually look at the period from when Joseph and Mary made it to the barn and the period that is in between making it to the barn and Jesus laying in the manger in swaddling clothes. There is some natural application through exegetical dissection and biblical hermeneutics that we must pull out. And that is the fact that Mary had some things that took place that is not recorded in the scriptural context. Mary's water broke. It's not in the text, but it's naturally applied. Mary had contractions. It's not in the text, but it's naturally applied. Mary had pain. It's not in the text, but it is naturally applied. Mary had to push, which is not in the text, but it's naturally applied. So walk with me as we go into the birthing process. We have to understand that your water breaks, contractions come, you have pain, you brace yourself and push, and then the baby comes out. So watch this. I'm not going to be before you very long, but I'm going to walk into this text, and we're going to go somewhere here. Water breaks means that your amniotic sac has ruptured and labor is imminent. The birthing process has begun. The cushion that protects the baby in the womb has broken. In other words, all hell has broken loose inside of the womb, and it's part of the process. See, some of us are in our embryonic state, and our water has broken, and now all hell has broken loose in our lives, and we're trying to understand where it is that we are. See, in this year, we have had a lot of people in here whose water has broken. Your water has broken and all hell has broken loose, and you can't even figure out whether you coming or whether you going. You were trying to figure out from day one in 2016 what in the world you were going to do about what you were about to go through, but God had you all of the way. But I want you to understand that your water broke and you're trying to figure out exactly what it is that you need to do. When the water breaks, that means it's time for the process of the pregnancy to head toward the end. Mary's water broke, but it's not in the text. But we know that it's naturally applied. When your water broke this year, I'm going to walk heavy because we're going to go somewhere today. When your water broke this year, where were you at? What was happening with you? When your water broke when you got that phone call. Your water broke when the doctor gave you that news. Your water broke when you found out that your child was not going to pass. Your water broke when you found out that you lost your job. Your water broke when you found out that you weren't going to be able to make it out of what you were in. Your water broke when you found out that you didn't have enough money to pay attention. Your water broke when you figured out that you didn't have what it was going to take to make ends meet. Your water broke when you ran out of gas and didn't have no money to put gas in the car. Where were you at when your water broke this year? At some point, your water broke, and you found yourself in a position to try to figure out what was going to be next. This year, like I said, has been a heck of a year, and everybody in this room, your water has broken at some time or another. The question is, what are we going to do with all of this stuff that is broken loose in our lives? So after the water breaks, we understand that once the water breaks, you start to have what they call contractions. Contractions are the shortening of the uterine muscles occurring at intervals before and during childbirth, which is the pressure that is created in the womb. Yet it is part of the process. See, I want you to understand, after your water broke, you started to have pressure in your life. Things begin to press upon you because the pressure came once you found out what you found out, or you saw what you saw, or you went through what you went through. When the water broke, then the pressure came down, and you begin to find yourself in a pressurized condition. Before Jesus got here, Jesus was in a womb in a natural state. And so before he even came out, he was in a place where all hell had already broken loose. And then he was in a place of pressure because the contractions begin to come. And let me explain something to you. Sometimes our water breaks, and then it breaks again. And then it breaks again. And then it breaks again. And so what happens is, after the pressure is let up from one condition, the water breaks again and you're under pressure again. The next thing is, when contractions come, pain comes. The text does not say it, but it's naturally applicable that Mary had pain. When your water breaks and the contractions come and pressure begins to pressurize you, you find yourself in pain. You find yourself in a position that you cannot explain yourself. And sometimes the pain becomes so unbearable that we find ourselves asking God, God, can you relieve this pain? Can you relieve this pressure? My water has broken, and God, whatever it is you're trying to birth here still hasn't come out, because I'm going through these labor pains and I'm in this position where I'm hurting, and God, I don't know when the pain is going to go away. I've taken Excedrin and I've taken Modol and I've taken all of these different aspirins and different things, but the pain is still here. God, when will the pain go away? 2016 said, I got you. And we got beat down this year. Faith Temple got beat down in 2016. And we sat around asking the question, God, when will the pain let up? And it kept coming right and left and right. God, when will the pain let up? See, there's something understanding. See, and men, I know we can't understand it as much as a mother can understand it. But when mothers who have had natural births can remember the day that their water broke, and those contractions came and the pain began to come, sometimes that changes the whole mannerism of who you are. You start acting and talking like somebody you have never talked like before. You say things on the labor bed that you've never said to your husband before. Anger comes out in all kinds of ways, and you begin to say this pain is so great that the repercussion is what you do to the people that are around you. Why in the world are you staring at me? Don't you know I'm hurting right now? The amazing thing is that today we're all modernized. And I know Mary and Joseph didn't go to a Lamaze class like I did. So Joseph wasn't able to sit down and learn about looking at the monitor that tells you when there's a contraction on the way. Joseph didn't have the expertise of the breathing techniques. He didn't have none of those things. He didn't sit in the class and learn exactly how it was supposed to happen. For all we know, Joseph was the one who actually delivered the baby. We don't even know. The thing is that in this state, there are a lot of things that we look at that we have difficulty applying to our own lives. And sometimes, when you ask a pregnant mother or a mother who has had a child, was there a time that you wanted the contractions and the pain to go away? And there was nothing you could do about it until you went through the process. That pain wasn't going to stop until you went through the process. And what I've learned about that is that this year we had a process that we've had to go through. And I began to ask God, sometimes we ask God, why? Because it's difficult to understand when you go through rough stuff. It's difficult to understand when things break. It's difficult to understand when stuff that you're not expecting to happen happens. And you're left sitting there with your mind going all which way. And when God tells you, that was my will, we have difficulty accepting it. But I want you to know there is power in the process. There's power in the process. Like I said, I'm not going to be very long unless God leads me farther, but we understand that Mary's water broke. We understand that she had contractions. And we understand that Mary had pain. But there's one more thing that's left. And we have to do what Mary did here. Mary pushed until Jesus came. Mary pushed until Jesus came. It's not in the text, but it's naturally applied. One thing you understand about pregnancy is that once the water breaks and the contractions come, and you finally get into a position where it is time for the baby to come out, they begin to tell you it's now time to what? To push. Mary was in a position where she was in pain. She was having contractions. And she had this deep urge to push. But when it was time, she began to push. See, one thing in our lives that we don't realize or that we don't understand is that with that being part of the process, we have to look at the fact that when we're in a place where something is being birthed, the pain is not going to ease up until the birthing process is over with. Until the process is over with. Mary had to push until Jesus came. So what are you talking about, Pastor? Once Jesus came out, Mary was able to breathe. She was able to feel herself in a normal rhythm. The pain had gone away. But before she got to that point, she had to push. See, some of us find ourselves at the end of our road, and we're at the contraction part, and we're at the place where it's time to push, but we're so weary in the realm of the stuff that we've been going through, we don't feel like pushing. We've been crying so long, I don't feel like pushing. I've been going through so much hell, I don't feel like pushing. I don't feel like I can go any farther than where I am. I don't feel like pushing. And so I find myself laying here in this pain and not being able to do anything about it because I refuse to push. I refuse to push. Somebody said that push means to pray until something happens. Push can mean to simply be very vigorous and forceful and to keep on going till you can't go no more. But we got to learn how to push, because we got to push out of 2016 and push into 2017 and to be able to get rid of some of the stuff that held us down and held us out in 2016. You see, it's been rough. It's been hard. It's been terrible. But there's something I want to point out. We know that Mary went through the whole birthing process. But one of the most powerful things about it is that she had Jesus with her the whole time. Watch this. She had Jesus with her the whole time. But before he could come out, she had to go through the process. Let that sink in. Jesus was with her the whole time. But he could not come out until she went through the process. Some of us are still trying to figure it out, but he can't come out until we finish going through the process. We got to finish going through the process. We got to finish going through the process. Finish going through the process. And so watch this. Mary finally has Jesus. She has pushed until Jesus came. But it did not change where they were. It did not change the place where Jesus was born. Once Jesus came, they were still in a barn. Jesus was laying in a feeding apparatus for animals on some hay. And it did not change where they were. But it summoned a blessing. I want you to look at this. When the wise men were told to go to the place where Jesus was born, they brought gifts, but they didn't bring gifts to a palace. They brought gifts to a barn. I'm going to make it plain in a minute. I want you to follow me. They brought gifts to a barn. In other words, your condition, your place, your area where you are, whatever it is you're going through, when Jesus is actually pushed out, your blessing can actually come where you are. Your actual circumstances don't have to change for God to bless you. So I want you to understand that they did not have to change to a palace. They didn't have to go to a place where he was laying in a bed that was formulated and made of purple and all kinds of things. It didn't have to change. This simply means that God can meet you where you are and bless you where you are. But you got to be able to push until he comes out. Because you have not finished the process yet. You found yourself in pain, but you haven't finished the process yet. You found yourself going through, but you haven't finished the process yet. God says, all I need you to do is listen to my voice. Harden not your heart. He says, I've come into this world not so that he could save us from the world. You have to understand that we're in a place where we're going to have pain. We're in a place where we're going to suffer. We're in a place where we're going to be down. But God can change our circumstances right where we are. Right where you are. God can change your circumstances and make it all come together again. He can make it all come together again. See, when you push, you have to push with expectation. Because you know that when God comes out in this thing, he's going to be able to fix whatever is wrong. The pain is going to go away. I'm going to push. I'm going to push until Jesus comes. I'm going to push until Jesus comes. I'm going to push until Jesus comes. I'm going to push until Jesus comes.